Okay, so my unit was unit 3.12, complex numbers. So a complex number in standard form is a plus b I. And the a stands for the real part, and bi stands for the imaginary part of the number. Okay, so an imaginary unit is actually the square root of a negative number. So the imaginary unit is the square root of a -1. So I is equal to the square root of -1. So, for example, the square root of -16, when you see you can't take the square root of a negative number. So to get rid of this negative, you put an I in front of the radical. So it's I square root 16. And then the square root of 16 is 4. So our answer would be 4I. And then another one is the square root of -4. So again, we know we can't take the square root of a negative number, so we put an I, radical 4. And then the square root of 4 is 2, so our answer is 2I. So I squared is equal to -1. So this means that 10I squared, when you see an I squared, you just substitute -1 in for it. So it would be 10 times -1. So our answer would be -10. Quadratic equations. So we're going to be solving for x here. So we're going to move this 25 over. So we're going to have x squared equals -25. And then get rid of the squared on the x, because we want to get the x by itself. We want to isolate the variable. We're going to take a square root of that, so these two cancel out. So since we did it to this side, we're going to need to do it to this side as well. But when solving for a variable and you take the square root of both sides, you must have plus or minus. So it's going to be x is equal to plus or minus the square root of -25. Because you have different solutions, because it's a quadratic equation. So we have x equal to plus or minus -25. So we have x equal to plus or minus, and then we have to get that negative out. So I radical 25. Then the square root of 25 is 5. So our answer is x is equal to plus or minus 5I. That's our answer. Okay, so we need to isolate the variable over here. So we're going to subtract 11 from both sides, and be 2x squared is equal to -48. And then we're just going to divide by 2 and get x squared is equal to -24. And so again, we're taking the square root of both sides, so this x squared cancels out the squared. So x is equal to plus or minus the square root of -24. So there's not really an even number that goes into -24, so we're just going to simplify this radical. So the radical of 24, so 2 and 12, 6 and 2, and then 3 and 2. So our radical actually ends up looking like 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. And so our pair, we have a pair of 2's here. So that's going to go on the outside. So 2I radical. And then we just multiply the 2 and the 3. So it's going to be 6. So our answer is x is equal to plus or minus 2I radical of 6. and that is the answer. For adding and subtracting complex numbers, we're just combining like terms. So we're just going to do 6 minus 4i, and then since it's an addition sign, we're going to combine the like terms, so plus 6 plus 4i. So now I'm going to combine them. So we have negative 4i and positive 4i, and those two cancel out. So we're left with 6 and 6, and 6 plus 6 is 12. So that is the answer. Okay, another addition problem. So we're just going to do the same thing, plus 5 plus 4i, and then combine the like terms, and we're going to use the complex number in standard form. So we're going to do the real part first. So 8 plus 5 is 13, and then we're going to do the imaginary numbers. So positive 4i minus I is positive 3i. So plus 3i, that's our answer. Okay, so subtraction is a little different. We're just going to have 6 minus 4i, and then we have to distribute this negative so we can combine like terms. So we're going to distribute the negative, so that's going to get us negative minus 6 plus negative 6 minus 4i. Now we're just going to combine like terms again. So we're going to do our real numbers first, but 6 and negative 6, they cancel out. So we're left with negative 4i minus 4i, which gets us negative 8i, and that is our answer. Okay, so same thing on this one, 7 minus 6i, and then distribute this negative here, so minus 3 plus 6i, then combine our like terms, so 7 minus 3 is 4, then negative 6i plus 6i, those two cancel out, and that's our answer. Okay, so now, multiplying complex numbers. We're just going to use the distribution. We're just going to distribute here, so 6 times 6, we're going to do first inner, outer, last. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 4i is 24i. Negative 4i times 6 is negative 24i. And then negative 4i times 4i is negative 16i squared. So now we're going to combine like terms, but positive 24i minus 24i cancel out. So we have 36 minus 16i squared. And remember, I squared is equal to negative 1. So anytime we see that I squared, we're going to substitute it in for negative 1. So we have 36 minus 16, then we're substituting the I squared in for negative 1. So this leaves us with 36 plus 16, which gives us 52. And that is our answer. Okay, so this one, same thing. We're going to do first, inner, outer, last. So 9 times negative 4 gives us a negative 36. 9 times 7i gives us a 63i. And then negative 2i times negative 4 gives us a positive 8i. Then negative 2 times 7i gives us a negative 14i squared. So combine like terms, so negative 36 plus 71i minus 14i squared. So again, we have that I squared, and I squared is equal to negative 1. So we're going to just substitute that in, plus 71i minus 14 times negative 1. So we're going to do negative 36 plus 71I plus 14, because we multiplied that negative 1. So we're going to add that to this real number here. So plus 14, and that gets us 22 plus 71I. And that is the answer.